Αγαπητές φίλες και φίλοι,
Dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome. This is the second half of today's conference. This is a very particular effort we are making with a view to invigorating the economy. To save us time, before I embark on my short speech, let me invite on stage the participants to this panel discussion so that we may move on.
λοιπόν, είναι χαρά μου να συμμετέχω.
It's a pleasure for me to be taking part in this panel discussion, where I will be championing the positions of Greek entrepreneurs in my capacity as the Secretary General of ENE and a member of Όλα Δικά Μας, an initiative. It's great to see proof in practice of the fact that this year's conference is the apex of a well-concerted and well-prepared effort that has been made on the part of the wider business world. The proposals we are presenting you with are not just the views of one entity. These are the result of a synthesis. This is a collective effort. Various entities, employees, employers, businesses have pitched in. In a nutshell, this is a cluster of proposals coming from people from the market who are knowledgeable. Let me mention that those who helped formulate these proposals include Όλα Δικά Μας, the initiative, the Association of Greek Chemical Enterprises, the Association of Enterprises in Greece, the Federation of Στερεά Ελλάδα Enterprises, and the Athens Chamber of Commerce and Industry. We also want to thank SEV and the General Federation of Greek Workers. They have been helping us. So let me commend and also welcome the representatives of these entities. It's obvious that now we are talking about a joining hands of the business world. Let it be noted that we didn't just insist on the formulation of positions and propositions as such, but we managed to validate them scientifically, scholarly. We turned to EOVE and we asked EOVE to tell us what the cost of these proposals will be to gauge the impact thereof. So we have given the international and global dimension to this event. We have important decision makers on this panel. We will be discussing Greece and Europe. We will be having a fertile debate about technology, growth and development strategies and competitiveness in view of 2030. So what's at stake is actually pan-European, and the narrative is pan-European. So this together, μαζί in Greek, must grow in order for us to overcome the obstacles. Let me discuss the proposals, or rather, let me read them out. First, marginal taxation for businesses. This is an incentive to have healthy and robust business growth while injecting cash flow. Moreover, this measure equals zero fiscal cost. So what we're proposing is this. In case the business makes profit and it's a legal entity and the profits are in excess of the average of the last 3 years, bearing in mind the nominal GDP, the difference will be independently taxed on by 10%. So the target of this initiative or this proposal is to give a boost to all the industrial sectors, especially since we're talking about the worth of industry in Greece. Let it be noted that we suggest that the effective tax rate be no less than 15% according to OECD guidelines. And if we take a look at what's going abroad, there are certain variations of this marginal tax. And it's already been implemented in Germany, in Italy, in Romania, so in other European states. This proposal of ours, always based on EOVE statistical insights, would help us have 2.57 billion euros saved within the next 10 years. That was the first proposal. The second, that is pertinent to fiscal and taxation, is about the gradual elimination of advance payments, tax advance payments. This is, in essence, a penalty for developing enterprises and more than them. So instead of them allowing to grow, the tax bracket is high. So we would advise the state to gradually do away with this advance payments of taxation, just as long as businesses indeed grow one year after another. The aim of this suggestion is to improve the cash flow to benefit the enterprise, and that would also allow scope for further investments. This proposal of ours would go for 10% the first year until we get to zero, since we're talking about gradually eliminating the payment of such taxation. We could also go for 3 to 5% every year. This, based on EOVEC calculation, would lead to an additional investment worth 2.76 billion within the next 10 years. So both these proposals, amongst others, and on top of everything, are a true incentive for a sincere presentation of the profits of enterprises, and that will help do away with the black economy or the grey economy. Now, the critical thing today, or the main question, is whether we can have a fiscal and taxation policy that will reward people who are being transparent and honest and will proceed with investment. Yes, says the business world, yes, we can do it. And we can tell you how to do it. So hopefully today's discussion will help. And thank you very much for your attention. I guess you'll join us, won't you, sir? Good. Now, I believe that maybe we should pick up from where you just left off. Can we do it? You said yes, we can. To be honest, quite often taxation policy and fiscal policy has stood in the way of businesses and their undertakings. So the main question is, how can we turn that into a lever for growth? I believe that I'm in the presence of exceptional speakers, so we're going to find an answer to this question. We're in the presence of Mr. Pitsilis, the governor of the Independent Authority for Public Revenue, AVE. I think he's online. Oh, there he is. Good afternoon, says Mr. Pitsilis. Hello, Mr. Pitsilis, says Mrs. Akrivou, the moderator. We are also in the presence of Mr. Alexis Patelis, who used to be the chief economic advisor to the Prime Minister of Greece. Hello, Mr. Patelis. Mrs. Aspasia Malio is also with us. She is a partner, a lawyer. She works for Potamitis Vekris, the law firm. Hello, Mrs. Malio. And Alexander Mengden is with us. He is an economist, Tax Foundation. Welcome, sir. Let's kick off. Mr. Apostolidis, to my understanding, your first proposal is about marginal taxation. So there is a point in us lending an ear to what different people have to say. Is it possible to have this happen? Can we adjust it to the Greek situation? Let's give the floor to Mr. Pitsilis first, because we're talking about technical stuff now. Do you see any obstacles, hindrances, technical hindrances, or application hindrances? Well, listen, this is the first time that I heard of the proposal, so I think that we need to study that. We have to look into it. When it comes to implementing a proposal, I think this is not the toughest part, especially if there is some sort of background and experience abroad. So we can look at how others have used it. But what I think really matters is to measure and calculate the impact of this proposal on public revenue based on the planning of the ministry as such, based on the needs that have been recorded, based on the commitments of the country. I guess that technically there will be no problem whatsoever. It's always a matter of fiscal planning and policies. Yes, that's my first take. But obviously, I have to look into that. Again, this is a new proposal. It's interesting. We have to evaluate it and look at it better. Right. Let me turn to Mr. Patelis. Sir, you also heard what ENE is proposing. Do you think that this measure is compatible generally speaking, with the growth and development policies of Greece or the European Union. There are other rules by now, generally speaking, aren't there, when it comes to growth and development in the EU? And do you think that this would be beneficial and attractive to investors? Good afternoon, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. Let me first extend a thanks for this invitation. It's a wonderful day event. I'm no longer a member of the government, so it wouldn't be right, nor would it be proper for me to comment on the policies of the government that is currently in power. But I could discuss the general philosophy of fiscal and taxation policy nowadays. When the New Democracy Party assumed power in 2019, even back then, they used to say that they would slash taxation. Because in the meantime, and until 2019, there had been various taxation hikes. Now, let's not forget that fiscal policy is not working in a silo. It doesn't work on its own. If you want to do away with a tax or slash it, obviously everyone will agree, but then again, it's a matter of choices and options. Do you want to cut this tax or increase another, or are you going to have an increase in expenditures? Do you want to have more expenses in order to build new hospitals? And of course, this is always gauged against the backdrop of fiscal capabilities. So it doesn't always go without saying that there will be fewer and lower taxes. So back in 2019, and I've written about it in The Big Return, that's the new book that I have published. Back then, there was this general mentality according to which, to the extent there was a fiscal space, that space should be taken advantage of in order to slash certain taxes, especially labor-related taxes and capital-related taxes. And to a great extent, indeed, any proposals are in that direction. So we are for those two because, you see, especially in the past, in Greece, there was a so-called investment void. We needed to fill it in. Back then, joblessness was even higher, and we had to have new investment projects materialize and new jobs. And then there's also the slashing of consumption taxes or the drop of such taxes. And if you take stock of what this government has done, indeed, it has done away with certain taxes that are relevant to insurance. It did away the so-called social solidarity tax, but it didn't slash VAT. And there's also the balance of trade of Greece. Again, there's a deficit. We still import more than we export. So maybe we shouldn't, that's what many say, we shouldn't encourage the consumption of goods, most of which are actually imported. So they're not going to be produced in Greece locally in the future, in the near future at least. So I guess, generally speaking, this is what the fiscal policy will be all about. We will be encouraging work and investments. I believe that Mr. Hatzidakis also referred to that, Vice President of the Hellenic government. He said this is not the end. He said there's more in store in view of the year 2027. Still, let me insist on a proposal and marginal taxation. Mrs. Maliou, from a jurist's point of view, what's your take, Mrs. Maliou? Are there constitutional or legal issues? Should we preempt certain things or change certain legal provisions to accommodate such a tax index or bracket? Is it maybe some sort of tax privilege or discrimination? Mrs. Mario says, thank you very much for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be with you. You know what? We lawyers, we jurists always find new hindrances. I'll try to not find any obstacle. Let me take things from the beginning. Proper lawmaking presupposes tolerance. It's also, of course, pertinent to and intertwined with the Constitution. And there's also the European law and case law that we have to take into account, especially directives, because this is a European family we're talking about. Within this context, the taxing and taxation, whenever you are doing away with taxation or imposing new taxes, there's a certain degree of tolerance because this is a matter of political choice. And after all, taxation is a political tool. It's an instrument. So starting at the constitutional framework. As concerns the Constitution, a bill of law that touches on taxation and fiscal policy. This bill of law, as of the 12th century, we have already a long background and history. We have to have a parliamentary consensus to vote for such a law. So you have to have the parliamentary consensus, and then there is the principle of equality. You have to make sure that there's no violation of this principle. We're talking about the principle of equality, meaning that similar things are tackled in a similar way. This is the horizontal equality, and then you have a vertical equality. Again, if these are prescribed, if these are complied with, then quite often the choice to do away with a tax or to impose a new tax will not just be constitutionally tolerated and allowed, but it's actually a necessary measure if you pursue other objectives. For instance, in this case, we are pursuing the growth and development of the national economy, because if you boost competitiveness, you are serving Article 106 of the Greek Constitution, which is all for growth and development. So, at first glance, I see no hindrances whatsoever. Actually, I think that this is a necessary choice you have to make. We have to make. Let's now discuss the European framework, because we have to be more careful when it comes to the European legal framework. Why is that? Because there is this European law that says, or rule that says, that we can't have state subsidies, because they tend to twist a competition and the rules thereof. Part of a state subsidy or state aid, according to European law, might be tax exemptions or tax relief measures. So this is the prism, the lens through which we have to look at this measure. So, state aid. You can have state aid when you want to boost business activities. There's no such thing for public sector salaried staff. So this is a measure about business activities, so we can view it through this lens. Now, the European legislation might disallow one such measure if the measure is not part and parcel of a general regulation. I mean, if you come up with a measure that concerns the totality of businesses, and if it covers all business entities, then most probably there will no problem whatsoever. If you have even if you have a selective approach, for instance, you mentioned the industry or the industrial sector, we have to be careful in terms of the ways in which we're going to make the proposal as such, in order for the selective measure and the implementation thereof not to give the advantage to one single field, say just manufacturing enterprises, instead of allowing other enterprises that are working under the same circumstances and want to achieve the same growth. So, in principle, or at first look, us jurists, we never think things are easy or, very straightforward. So to begin with, we are here, we are by your side, let's move on, just be careful. Right, says the moderator. I think that whenever we can do it, we'll always find the right way, Mrs. Marios. Having said that, let us give the floor to our dear guest, Mr. Magden. We would like you to tell us about similar experiences in other European member states, or maybe globally. Where else have you seen such success stories of similar proposals? And what can Greece learn from other examples?
Lord, for the kind invitation to...
Ευχαριστώ πολύ για την πρόσκληση και για αυτή τη σημαντική συζήτηση για την φορολογική ανταγωνιστικότητα. Αν κατατάξουμε τις χώρες παγκοσμίως, τις χώρες του ΟΣΑ, η Ελλάδα είναι 23η στις 38 χώρες. Άρα, αν δούμε και ευρωπαϊκά τι συμβαίνει, υπάρχει ακόμα αρκετός δρόμος να διανυθεί. Αυτό για το κομμάτι το φορολογικό. Βέβαια, η πρόταση για την επιταχυμένη απόσβεση. Αυτή τη στιγμή η Ελλάδα είναι στον πάτο της κατάταξης του ΟΣΑ μαζί με άλλες χώρες για την απόσβεση. Αυτό το μέτρο, όπως το υπολογίσαμε χθες, θα φέρει την Ελλάδα στο μέσο όρο, παρόμοια δηλαδή θέση με αυτή που έχει η Γερμανία. Άρα θεωρείται καλή κίνηση. Η επιταχυμένη απόσβεση είναι μία από τις κινήσεις τις πιο αποδοτικές σε επίπεδο φορολογίας, γιατί μειώνει αμέσως το κόστος κεφαλαίου για νέες επενδύσεις χωρίς να επηρεάζει τα έσοδα από την απόδοση παλιών επενδύσεων. Η Ελλάδα μπορεί να μειωθεί χώρες που ακολούθησαν το ιδανικό να απαλλάσσουν, ας πούμε, με αυτόν τον τρόπο το 100% των μηχανημάτων, όπως είναι το Ηνωμένο Βασίλειο και οι Ηνωμένες Πολιτείες, που φέτος επέκτηναν τη ρύθμιση και στα βιομηχανικά κτίρια. Φυσικά υπάρχουν και τα χρυσά παραδείγματα της Εστονίας και της Λετονίας, που έχουν σχεδόν ουδέτερα φορολογικά συστήματα ως προς την διανομή των κερδών, όχι ετησίως. Ίσως να φτάσουμε εκεί τα επόμενα χρόνια, δεν ξέρω. Αλλά η Ελλάδα, όπως και να έχει, πρέπει να είναι πιο φιλόδοξη στο επίπεδο της επιτάχυνσης της απόσβεσης. Για το κεφάλαιο φυσικά μιλάμε και φυσικά όσον αφορά την πρόταση για την οριακή φορολογία των επιχειρήσεων, μπορεί να υπάρχει ανάγκη φορολογικού σχεδιασμού και ο διάβολος είναι στις λεπτομέρειες, όπως ξέρετε. Η Ελλάδα έχει κανόνες από τους πλέον περιοριστικούς όσον αφορά στη λογιστική καταχώρηση των ζημιών. Μπορείς να το κάνεις αυτό μέσα σε ένα χρόνο μόνο και δεν μπορείς να το μεταθέσεις αργότερα στο χρόνο, άρα δεν μπορείς στην ουσία ποινικοποιήσει, ας πούμε, και τιμωρείσαι αν μια χρονιά δεν έχεις κέρδη. Τώρα, αν το δημοσιονομικό κόστος αποτελεί θέμα για την επιταχυμένη απόσβεση, συνήθως εμείς πάλι κοιτάμε μια προσέγγιση η οποία πηγαίνει στο δινικές και έτσι έχουμε επενδύσεις που είναι πιο μακροπρόθεσμες να αποσβαίνονται με την πάροδο του χρόνου, αλλά η επένδυση και το κέρδος συνέρχεται αμέσως. Υπάρχουν χώρες όπως η Γερμανία και η Τσεχία που έχουν κάνει προσωρινό αυτό το μέτρο. Αυτό φυσικά είναι μεγάλο ρίσκο, γιατί δεν θα έχει και τις ίδιες επιπτώσεις. Θα είναι και αυτές προσωρινές και όχι μόνιμες. Okay. We've heard your initial interventions and time flies. With the first question, we consumed 15 minutes. Now, a second round of questions. Mr. Pitsilis, please tell us the new digital era we are in. You have modernized more than we had been expecting. Will that favor the growth in the entrepreneurship? We cannot hear you, Mr. Pitsilis. There's a technical problem? No. We can hear you now. One of the most important reasons we modernized was to better serve our citizens and businesses. There are many things that fall under this title. We've developed a series of digital solutions for businesses to move on with their requests and applications to the tax authorities without wasting time. We have tools that have modernized tax controls. And in general, we have tools that allow us to defend healthy entrepreneurship, because tax evasion is, of course, an antisocial, let's say, phenomenon, because if we cannot deal with it, with our digital tools, the ones that already exist and the ones under development, there is this feeling that nobody is interested. And then there is a more general, let's say, tendency for breaking the law. So data has shown that many things have been done in this direction. In recent years, an important part of this overperformance in terms of revenues is due to that. Now, for 2022, we have had a serious drop, and we are expecting better news, even a revision of 2022 and better figures for 23 and 24. And in order to avoid wasting your time, our general planning is to have holistic restructuring of our services, and the model is one service, one point of serving, let's say, the customers, and we can help citizens wherever they are, despite of any geographical boundaries. We are there. These are things that are necessary because what is ahead of us, a lack of human resources, usually because of demographics, is something we have to deal with, and we have to be proactive. Okay, Mr. Patelis, let me come to Mr. Patelis. Which are the tax or institutional statutory, let's say, incentives that could push investments in innovation further? Well, once again, I cannot say much because I'm no longer a member of the government, but I need to say something different. In our country, we are now used to seeing tax reductions. And the question is only logical. What else can we reduce? But this is not a given fact. We live in a democracy, and we want a stable tax system. In the next elections, we might see another party ruling the country. And if you look at the party agendas, you will see that most of them believe in tax rises. If you look at the European system today, you will see that most countries do not discuss tax reductions. In the UK, the Treasurer has actually publicly said that we need to increase taxes, because if we don't, things will become worse. And the question now is, which sectors will be further taxed? And in France, where the political system has actually paralyzed, and we have a temporary government, caretaker government, which is actually there only for some financial stability. There is a whole discussion about taxing big properties and big businesses. Even in Italy, we have similar discussion. So, all of us, businesses as well, should look at the bigger picture. Our country has paid for the mistakes of those decades that led us to the economic crisis. There is no activity that can develop if the economic system is not, let's say, there to support it. And the same goes for the political system. So we have to capitalize on the stability we've had in recent years. Okay, Ms. Malio, our time is up, but I would like to ask how do you value the protection of taxpayers, and what do we need to do to strengthen this protection and, of course, the trust of taxpayers in the system? Well, this is the question that we've been asking ourselves for so many years. An intention to have good laws and the way laws are implemented from the executive power and the judicial power are important. Our irreplaceable director of ADE, Mr. Pitsilis, has actually allowed us to have all the data we need to combat tax evasion. But we still have many things that remain open. Bureaucracy. We need to better train our human resources in the tax authorities and, of course, our judges. We don't have mechanisms that can easily solve the complaints of the business communities, of the business community about, for instance, the existence of an arbitration system. This is something that could give us quick answers. Then we have another problem that the Deputy Prime Minister mentioned before, the speed at which justice is delivered. We have so many cases that are still pending, and we need to solve all those issues because there is no legal certainty. So there are many issues that have to do with implementation and not so much with legislation. My last question to Mr. Megden. Do you think that there are some specific international trends that will influence tax policies in the EU in the next decade? Ναι, φυσικά υπάρχουν. Κάτι που έρχεται ή έχει έρθει είναι ο παγκόσμιος, ο γενικότερος ελάχιστος φόρος, κάτι παραπάνω από τον ευρωπαϊκό, δηλαδή, και οι επιπτώσεις ήδη φαίνονται. Κάτι που δεν έχει συζητηθεί είναι η διάκριση μεταξύ των επιστρέψιμων και μη επιστρέψιμων φορολογικών πιστώσεων. Οι επιστρέψιμες είναι, ας πούμε, μια μορφή επιδότησης, καλύτερα αποδεκτές. Βλέπουμε τέτοιες τάσεις να γίνονται μια μορφή αγώνα στην Ευρωπαϊκή Ένωση. Εγώ θα σας έλεγα να μην μπείτε σε ένα τέτοιο αγώνα, σε μια τέτοια κούρσα. Γενικά χρειάζεται μέτρα τα οποία να έχουν εξάρτηση από το χρόνο και αυτά είναι, ας πούμε, η ενισχυμένη απόσβεση, η σωστή λογιστική απεικόνιση των ζημιών του παρελθόντος. Γενικά, ένας γενικότερος ελάχιστος φόρος θα ήταν μια μορφή επιδότησης. Υπάρχει βέβαια και το ΣΥΜΠΑΝ, που είναι οι κεφαλαιοχικές επενδύσεις. Ένα τέτοιο σύστημα λειτουργεί πολύ καλύτερα από ένα κανονισμό command and control. Αυτό είναι δύσκολο βέβαια και είναι και κάτι που παραμένει ανοιχτό ως ερώτημα. Θεωρώ λοιπόν ότι η Ελλάδα ως εθνική κυβέρνηση που δεν περνάει μέσα από την Ευρωπαϊκή Ένωση λίγα μπορεί να κάνει σε εθνικό επίπεδο. Σε αυτό το θέμα λοιπόν θα πρέπει να ακουμπήσει και να στηριχτεί σε άλλα επίπεδα πολιτικής. Well, I said that I would leave 2 or 3 minutes in at the end. For you, Mr. Apostolidis, I hope you are not offended, but maybe you have a question you want to raise or a small intervention. Well, I would like to invite you to give me an answer that is as bold as possible. What are the main issues that have to do with the tax policies? Are they technical, political, social? Is it a combination? How can we make sure that tax interventions will indeed increase production in the long term and will not only be a relief in the short term? Well, that's a very difficult question. I was trying to think about an answer. Economy is the answer for me. I am an economist. In the long term, we always have the risk of bankruptcy. So the numbers have to add up. And of course, in the meantime, we have politics to rely on, because we are a democracy and the sovereign people have to make a decision about which direction to take. Mr. Pitsilis, what is your view on that? I can't offer much to this discussion because it's a discussion about politics. We, on our side, are working hard in order to have a tax policy increase which is as good as possible, because there is this saying that the tax policy of a country is as good as its tax authorities, its tax administration. So if we have transparency and good governance, as Mr. Patelis says, the citizens are there and feel secure because the government is also secure and safe, feels safe that it can plan ahead. Most of the things have been already said. It's important to have in mind that in recent years we had a huge decrease of tax rates and a huge increase of public revenue. In 2020, we had 47 billion as revenue, and in 2024 it was 71 billion. So more than 100% within 4 years, and all this with tax reductions. I will fully agree with Mr. Patelis. This has to do with the comfort that we need to provide to those who wisely plan systems, and those would plan systems and interventions in a way that will make sure that nothing will go wrong in the future. Of course, the reality has proven that everything can go wrong anytime. Anyway, thank you so much, Mr. Pitsilis. We always have very little time to make discussions and go deep, but we've certainly heard different views. Thank you for allowing me to coordinate this panel, and I think there is a lot to say. Thank you.